I'm Kira Paterakis, and I want to start out by saying, on behalf of my family, thank you. Thank you all for being here this afternoon to honor my grandfather and to acknowledge and celebrate all that he has accomplished and all that he has done for the city of Baltimore. Before I begin, I want to recognize some special guests and friends that have been gracious enough to come out today, including, of course, Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake and Council President Jack Young, who you will hear from shortly, but also Kim Clark, Bill Cole, Colin Tarver, Jay Brody, Calliope Parthemis, Eric Costello, and Zeke Cohen. Again, thank you for being here. I know my grandfather would be very appreciative of your support. As a third-generation member of the family, I personally feel honored and privileged to be able to call John Paterakis my grandfather. To be able to look outside my office window every day and know his legacy lives on through the landmarks and buildings around us. I am so excited that a piece of him will forever be engraved on this circle. I wanted to share a short and defining moment I had with him this past year. He made a surprise visit to the Harbor East office, rolling in on his famous electric wheelchair. I will never forget that day, how happy he was. When he found me at my desk, he had the biggest smile on his face. I introduced him to some of my coworkers as he began to tell jokes and tell stories from his past. As he was looking around, he noticed there were some empty cubicles and didn't understand why. He proceeded to tell us we need to utilize the empty cubicle space and grow plants in them. We all laughed at the thought of growing plants and gardens in the office, but it just goes to show he was always thinking ahead, always trying to improve his surroundings. And that's exactly what happened with the land we are standing on today. What he has done for the city of Baltimore is truly inspiring. And I hope to one day fill his shoes in one small way. I am so proud to be here and to honor him and his accomplishments. He was much more than a little baker that got lucky. And now I want to turn it over to my aunt, the oldest daughter of John Paterakis Sr., Vanessa Paterakis Smith.
On behalf of the Paterakis family, I would like to thank Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, City Council President Jack Young, Calliope Parthemis, and all representatives of the city in attendance for this great honor bestowed upon our father, John Paterakis. His vision for Harbor East started as a dream and ended in reality. Even though there were critics who didn't believe his vision would work, I think he turned them into believers when Harbor East developed into what it is today, a thriving microcosm composed of hotels, offices, retail, restaurants, and is considered the diamond jewel of the city. Our father was proud of Harbor East, that he made it part of his drive every day to and from the bakery. Even on Saturdays, holding court at Harbor East Deli, or Sundays, having brunch at the Four Seasons, he never missed a day that he didn't drive this circle. Our father's last drive-through was his funeral procession that started and ended at this very point. There is no better way to honor and memorialize our father than to name this circle John Paterakis Sr. Circle. Our father loved the city, loved everyone gathered here today, loved his creation, but most of all, loved life. Our entire family extends sincere appreciation to the city for the commemorative naming of this circle that forever will honor the man whose vision made all of this possible. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce the City Council, Jack Young.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone. You know, it's bittersweet for me to stand here without Mr. John and his scooter telling us what to do. Pete and all the guys know, and Mike know what he does, and you know, everybody just did whatever John said. I used to call him Mr. Paterakis. He said, don't call me Mr. Paterakis, you call me John. And he made me an honorary Greek, Callie. So I'm an honorary Greek. But, it started with the Marriott. This was almost like a wasteland down here. And Mr. Paterakis, developed this property to what it is now. And what a job, Mr. John. I know your crown jewel was getting those condos done over the top of the Four Seasons. And you had other plans that you wanted to see to fruition, but your family would see that done. And we want to thank you on behalf of the citizens of Baltimore for what you have done to help grow the city of Baltimore. Thank you for all the tax revenue that we get, that people say we don't get because we give stuff away. But think about all of the jobs that have been created right here in Harbor East. And it's all because of Mr. John. I want to thank the families, especially, for allowing me to have a few words. I mean, I can go on and on and on about our Saturday little breakfast at Harbor East Deli and at the diner and sometimes at the Four Seasons. I mean, this man was generous, and everything he did, he wanted no credit for. And he did a lot of good and never wanted any credit. All he wanted to do was make lives better for those who were less fortunate. And he said that his parents came over here with nothing, but look at what the family has now. Y'all keep his legacy going, because his legacy and his shoes are going to be too hard to fill. Thank you for having me here. Now, Mayor, 49th Mayor of the great city of Baltimore, Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. It is my pleasure to be here with all of you on this blustery day for a good cause. It is a joyous, joyous, joyous occasion as we celebrate the life and the legacy of one of Baltimore's champions, John Paterakis, a man who loved Baltimore and Baltimore loved him back. He's like Sinatra or Cher's, like that one name. You say Mr. John, everybody in Baltimore knew who you were talking about. He believed in his city, he believed in us, and he bet big on Baltimore. He knew that we have potential. When others would visit our city in the 80s, they might stop at our shiny new harbor place, then drive through this no man's land of warehouses over to Fells Point, never realizing the potential of this space. Today, look around. We see boutiques teeming with people, Whole Foods full of shoppers, Under Armour flagship stores, hotel and restaurants. And now, we all get to see what Mr. John saw. So let this be a lesson to anyone who would doubt the vision and the tenacity and the resiliency of our great city. Mr. John knew that he could rejuvenate a portion of this city that was long forgotten. And if we can do it here, we can do it everywhere in Baltimore. So today, as we commemorate Mr. John's legacy, let us remember his spirit, his vision, his unyielding faith in his hometown. We miss you, Mr. John, and by naming this circle, this iconic hub of Harbor East after you, your legacy will continue for future generations. Thank you very much.
3, 2, 1.